All right, this is your test review video. Hopefully you have worked out some of this and you're just kind of checking over your work and hearing explanations on the things that you do need help with. I will say I don't have a way to show you my calculator and what I'm using with this recording program, but you should be using your calculator either on your phone or your actual calculator or whatever you plan on using for test day, and check your answers with that. If you have questions, make sure you are in degree mode. That is the most common thing that makes a mistake with this. All right, first ones, they are asking us to use Pythagorean theorem to solve for the missing side. So remember, Pythagorean theorem is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. A and B are always your legs. I like to have A be the smaller, B be the bigger of the two legs, and then C is always your side across from your right angle. That's your hypotenuse. So we're going to have 2 squared plus 6 squared equals x squared. And then we need to actually evaluate those. 2 squared is 4, 6 squared is 36, and we don't know x squared. 4 plus 36 is 40 equals x squared. And then to get x by itself, we have to square root both sides. So x is going to equal, and I'm going to do it to 2 decimal places. It's going to be 6.32. All right, looking at number 2, it gives you the hypotenuse, so we already have C, and we have one of the sides. I'm going to label it A, and then the unknown is going to be B. So 9.7 squared plus B squared equals 13.3. Oh, not cubed, sorry, squared. So then 9.7 squared is 94.09 plus B squared, we don't know. Then 13.3 squared is 176.89. To solve for B squared, we need to subtract the 94.09 on both sides. And we get that B squared equals 82.8. We need to square root both sides to solve for B. And we get that B equals 9. It says 099, but we're going to round that to 10 because it was 9.099, and this 9 makes this 9 increase. All right, for this one, you're going to have to draw your own picture. It says you ride a bike for 4 miles, then turn right and ride for another 7 miles. So you're on your bike, and we're going to say you're going north, so you're going 4 miles. You turn right, which creates an exact right angle, and ride 7 more miles. How far are you from your starting point? So it's wanting you to find your hypotenuse. I'm going to call it X. So we have A, we have B, we do not have C. So 4 squared plus 7 squared equals x squared. 4 squared is 36. 7 squared is 49. We don't know x squared. 36 plus 49 is 85. And then we square root both sides to get x by itself. And we're going to round this to 2 decimals. So it's going to be 9.22 because the 9 makes the 1 go up to a 2. All right, now we're trying to determine what type of triangle it is. So remember, if it's acute, that would be where the 2 sides were bigger. If it is obtuse, that would be where the single side was bigger. And if it's right, they'll be equal. So remember, we're using a squared plus b squared question mark c squared to see. Are they equal or is one bigger? So remember, a is always your smallest, so 5 will be a. B is your middle, so B will be 12, and C is always your largest, so C will be 13. 5 squared plus 12 squared, question mark 13 squared. 5 squared is 25, 12 squared is 144, 13 squared is 169. 25 plus 144 is 169. So 169 is equal to 169, which means this is a right triangle. All right, looking at number 5, same idea, same process. So A is going to be 8, B is going to be 17, and C is going to be 20. 8 squared plus 17 squared, question mark, 20 squared. 8 squared is 64. 17 squared is 289. And 20 squared is 400, I think. Yeah, 400. Okay, so then you add those together. So 64 plus 289 is going to be 353. So we have 353 and 400. Well, 400 is obviously bigger. So since this is the single side, it's going to be an obtuse triangle. If the two sides that you added together were bigger, it would have been an acute triangle. All right, special right triangles. You should remember there's two different types of triangles. There's a 45-45-90 and a 30-60-90. So number 6 is going to be a 30-60-90. So remember the side across from the 30 is always equal to A. Across from the right angle is equal to 2A, and you can always use this thing to the right. And the side across from the 60 is A root 3. So the only one that's an equation is the 16 equals 2A. Divide by 2 on both sides. A equals 8. So if A is 8, we're going to take that and plug it in. So X is going to be 8 root 3, and Y is going to be 8. Number 7, this is a 45-45-90. And we know that the sides across from the 45s are A. And the side across from the 90 is A root 2. I know you're asking yourself, well, am I going to have this little box over here to the right on my test? Yes. So 8 is A. So if 8 is A, we can plug that in here. So we know that N is also 8. And we can plug it in here. And M is 8 root 2. Hopefully that's relatively easy for you, knowing that you'll have the box on the side. So don't stress about memorizing these if you don't have them memorized, but you still need to know how to actually use what you're given. All right. On this section, you will need to memorize or have memorized what I always write at the top of your screen. Anytime we're doing these, this S O over H, C A over H, T O over A. Please make sure you have that memorized. You'll definitely need it. Don't worry about simplifying any of these fractions here. So on number 8, sine is opposite over hypotenuse. So it's going to be best to label our sides first. The side across from the angle is the O. Across from the 90 is H. The one next to it is A. So now that we have those, we can go ahead and figure out sine. Sine is opposite over hypotenuse. So it's going to be 80 over 100. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. So 60 over 100. And tangent is opposite over adjacent. So 80 over 60. All right, number 9, you'll notice that you only have 2 of the 3 sides. We have the opposite and the adjacent, but you don't have the hypotenuse. So you have to solve for it. So 10 squared plus 24 squared equals c squared. 10 squared is 100. 24 squared is 576. And we don't know c squared, so we're going to add those together. 676 equals c squared. Square root both sides. Square root of 676 is 26. So that is C. All right. So knowing that, that makes that the hypotenuse. So we need to figure out sine. Sine is opposite over hypotenuse. So 24 over 26. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. So 10 over 26. Tangent is opposite over adjacent. So 24 over 10. Don't worry if your denominator is smaller, that's okay. Make sure you have it in the correct form and you have your adjacent, opposite, and hypotenuse labeled, and you will be good to go. All right, now you are going to actually use that sine, cosine, and tangent that we've been talking about. So writing it again at the bottom, at the top, because you're going to definitely need it. So you want to first label your sides. So we have the opposite and the adjacent, which means we're going to use tangent. It's always tangent of whatever this angle is. So tangent of 27 equals opposite over adjacent. So x over 10. And then to solve, we've got to times by 10 on both sides because we want to get x by itself. So x is going to equal whatever 10 times the tangent of 27 is. I'm going to type that in my calculator. And this is where it's important to make sure you are in degree mode. Like, I just typed that in and got a negative, so I know I'm not in degree mode. This is not my school calculator. This is my home calculator, which means I have not been using it lately. So I'm going to do 10 tangent of 27, and I'm going to get that x equals 5.095. But remember, we want to use two decimals. So what you really ought to write is 5.10. All right, number 11, we need to identify what we have. We have the opposite and the hypotenuse. So we're going to use sine. So sine of 46 equals opposite, which is 8 over hypotenuse, which is x. So then to solve, we times both sides by x. So then we have x sine of 46 equals 8. So now to solve this, we divide by sine on both sides, sine of 46. So x is going to equal whatever 8 divided by sine of 46 is. So we're going to type that in our calculator. And if it's already in degree mode like you did last time, you don't have to do any changes. It should still be there. So that is going to equal 11.12. And that's going to be your answer with rounding. So hopefully this is making more sense to you. If you need to do more practice, remember there is plenty of practice in your packet. And I uploaded those answer keys last week at the end on Friday for the remote learning day. Looking back at the directions, it says to determine if you'd use sine, cosine, or tangent. Oh, I just moved the entire writing. Sine, cosine, or tangent. And that's what you need to write in that other blank that will be on the test. So you need where it says trig ratio, you should write. You should write that this one's going to use tangent. This trig ratio, I'm going to squeeze this in here. You should write sine. So make sure you have those on there. They will be part of the test. There'll be different little drop downs that you'll have to do. All right, last one like this. We have the adjacent and the hypotenuse. So we're going to use cosine. Cosine of 54 equals adjacent over hypotenuse. So x over 12 to solve. We times by 12 on both sides. So x is going to equal whatever 12 times the cosine of 54 is. I'm going to type that into my calculator, and I get that x equals 7.05. And don't forget to identify your trig ratio, which would obviously be cosine, since that's what we use to solve this. All right, looking at these, we're solving for the angle. So we want to identify what we have first. We have the adjacent and the hypotenuse here, which means our trig ratio is cosine. We're going to use cosine here. So we're going to say cosine of our unknown. You can use x or you can write theta. Is adjacent, which is 10, over hypotenuse, which is 11. And remember, to solve for that unknown angle, we do the inverse cosine of 10 over 11. So you want to type that in your calculator. Remember, you hit second and then cosine, and it'll give you that cosine with the -1. So then it'll say 10 divided by 11, which means your angle is 24.62 degrees. And looking at number 14, we have the opposite and the hypotenuse. So my trig ratio is going to be sine. So then I'm going to set it up. Sine of the angle equals opposite, which is 15, over hypotenuse, which is 17. Then I'm going to use the inverse of sine of 15 over 17 to solve here. So we're going to hit second sine, 15 divided by 17, and we get that our angle is 61.93 degrees. All right, and the last one in this section, we have the opposite and the adjacent, which means our trig function is going to be tangent. Our trig function is tangent. So we're going to say tangent of the unknown equals opposite, which is 8, over adjacent, which is 5. So then to solve, we do inverse trig, or inverse tangent of 8 over 5, which gives me 57.99. That equals almost terrible degrees. I'll make sure on your test to specify how many decimal places to use. And you won't have to put the degree symbol because it's not, you can't type it in the blanks. And last piece of this, we have the word problems. So I will tell you, you're definitely going to want to draw the picture on these word problems. You're going to get points for your picture, and make sure at the end you have a unit. Like you have to have a unit after your number. Otherwise, I assume it's elephants. And like I've told you, it's never elephants. So let's look at this one. An airplane is flying at a height of 2 miles above the ground. Okay, here's my beautiful airplane. It's flying 2 miles above the ground. So 2 miles is going to be that height. The distance along the ground from the airplane to the airport is 5 miles. So it's saying, here's the airport, blah, 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 whatever, all the buildings, the towers, all the things. This is 5 miles. What is the angle of depression from the airplane to the airport? So you want to figure out what is the angle of depression that it needs to go at. So remember, angle of depression is really up here, but because these lines are parallel, we always write it in the base angle. You always write it in the very bottom. So I'm going to use, let's see, this is a right angle. So I have my opposite and my adjacent. So I'm going to use tangent. Tangent of the unknown equals opposite, which is 2, over adjacent, which is 5. So we're going to have to do inverse tangent of 2 over 5. So if you do that, and remember, inverse tangent, 2 divided by 5 is going to be 21.8 degrees because it is an angle. So that's your unit here. Degrees is your unit because it's an angle. Hopefully the pictures helped you. Please try to draw them on your paper. If you need extra practice, make sure you can look it up. You can ask me. Remember, I will have office hours and anything else you need. All right, last word problem. Make sure you draw a picture. A bird sits on top of a lamppost. All right, so we have a lamppost. It's got a light, the light's shining down, and we have a little bird. All right, a bird, beak, some feet, and a wing. Beautiful. The angle of depression from the bird to the feet of an observer. Oh, that means I get to draw a sick person. Observer. So the bird to the feet of the observer is 35 degrees. So it's angle of depression. So that 35 degrees is going to go there. Okay. The distance from the bird to the observer is 25 meters. Now, this one's a little tricky sometimes. So from the bird to the observer, so from the bird to the person, that's going to be the diagonal line. So it's going to be this 25 meters. How tall is the lamppost? So it's asking us for this height X over here. So we have opposite, we have adjacent. So we're going to use sine. So sine of 35 equals opposite, which is X, over hypotenuse, which is 25. Did I say adjacent? I meant hypotenuse. So then we need to times by 25 on both sides. So X equals 25 times the sine of 35. We got to type that in our calculator to get our actual number. 25 times the sine of 35, which is going to be 14.34, and the unit is going to be meters because our distance was in meters, so we have to use meters. All right, hopefully this helped you. If you need anything else, please don't hesitate to log into office hours, ask for help, let me know what you need. Please work through some of the extra practice if you find it in your packet. If you need any answer keys, don't hesitate to reach out. You can also use Delta Math. A lot of this stuff is in there. The word problems isn't, but other than that, the rest of the stuff is. Please make sure you get your graded homework done and turned in by tonight. It is due to me, and it is a good practice of all of these things. Have a good day, guys.